Imagine a night so late in cosmic history that there are no constellations left, no glowing band of the Milky Way, no distant galaxies scattered across the dark, just one final civilization, somewhere in the cold, orbiting the last usable source of energy in a universe that has been dying for longer than human language can really express. And then, even that last light begins to fail. If humanity somehow survived long enough to witness the end of the universe, what would we actually see? Because when most people imagine the end of everything, they imagine violence, a collapse, a cosmic detonation, a final moment when the sky splits open and reality tears itself apart. But the most unsettling possibility is not that the universe ends dramatically, it is that it ends quietly. Our universe is about 13.8 billion years old, and the expansion of the cosmos is not slowing to a stop. According to modern observations, that expansion began accelerating billions of years after the Big Bang, driven by something we still do not fully understand: dark energy. And that one fact changes almost every picture people have of the far future. At first, that sounds simple. The universe expands. Fine. But it leads somewhere much stranger. To understand how extreme this really is, we need to shrink it down to human scale. Picture a city at night where every house is lit by its own fire. Now imagine that every house begins drifting away from every other house. Not just slowly, but forever. At the same time, every fire burns lower. No one can share warmth. No one can trade fuel. No new fires are being made. Eventually, each house is alone, dim, and surrounded by a darkness that keeps growing. That is the far future of an accelerating universe. The leading picture is not a universe that suddenly stops existing. It is a universe that becomes more dilute, more isolated, and less useful with time. Cosmologists often describe that broad outcome as heat death, not because everything becomes hot, but because energy ends up spread so thinly and so evenly that nothing interesting can really happen anymore. No engines, no metabolism, no new stars, no meaningful work, just a cosmos running out of differences. And this is where things begin to change. If humanity were to see that ending, it would not mean that present-day humans somehow remain biologically unchanged for impossible stretches of time. It would mean that our descendants, or whatever humanity eventually becomes, survive through eras so long that even galaxies begin to feel temporary. That alone is one of the strangest parts of the question. To witness the end of the universe, humanity would first have to survive Earth's fragility, the death of the sun, the instability of civilizations, the distances between stars, and the unimaginable patience required by cosmic time. In other words, this story is not only about how the universe ends, it is also about what kind of species would still be here to watch it. And for us, that changes everything. Because the first stage of the end would not look like the end at all. For a very long time, there would still be stars. There would still be galaxies. There would still be places where life, engineering, memory, and choice might exist. The early part of the cosmic ending would feel less like an apocalypse and more like a slow narrowing of options. As dark energy continues driving accelerated expansion, more and more of the universe becomes unreachable. Distant galaxies are not just far away. Over enough time, they recede so effectively that future observers would lose access to most of the cosmos entirely. The universe would still be enormous, but from the point of view of any surviving civilization, it would become visually smaller. The great cosmic web would fade from view. The sky would simplify. Reality itself would seem more provincial. Now put that into perspective. We live in an unusually luminous era. The night sky still contains structure. Galaxies are still visible. Stars are still being born. The universe still looks like a place with a story unfolding across it. But in the long run, star formation shuts down. Stellar remnants begin to dominate, and the engines that make the cosmos bright gradually switch off. So what would humanity actually see? First, the sky would become poorer. Not emotionally, literally. Fewer galaxies visible. Fewer bright young stars. Fewer reminders that the universe is active. The great drama of cosmic creation would be replaced by a kind of deep time afterglow. The last long-lived stars, especially the smallest and slowest burning ones, would matter more and more, because they would be among the final natural islands of dependable energy in a darkening universe. If our descendants were still alive, those stars would not just be scenery. They would be infrastructure, cathedrals of survival. Civilizations might gather around them the way ancient humans gathered around rivers. Every photon would matter. Every orbit would matter. Every remaining source of warmth would become sacred, in a practical sense. But even a universe full of dead stars is not yet the end. A dark sky is not the same thing as a finished cosmos. What makes a universe livable is not just the existence of matter. It is the existence of gradients, differences, hot versus cold, dense versus diffuse, ordered versus disordered. Life feeds on those imbalances. So do computers. So do machines. So does thought itself. And the end of the universe, in the most likely broad scenario, is the long destruction of those imbalances. Not because something attacks them, but because nature slowly erases them. Energy becomes less concentrated. Structures decay. Opportunities disappear. So the end would not be one moment. It would be the last era in which anything can still meaningfully happen. That is a much more haunting idea. Imagine descendants of humanity living in artificial habitats around dim stellar remnants, stretching every remaining source of energy with absurd efficiency. Imagine minds slowed down to conserve power. Imagine civilizations for whom 1,000,000 years is a budgeting problem. Imagine memory archives treated more carefully than planets once were, not because the universe is exploding, but because every remaining spark has become precious. Scientists do not know whether intelligence could truly survive that long. That part is speculative. But the physical pressure behind the speculation is real. In a universe heading toward greater isolation and lower usable energy, survival increasingly becomes an argument against cosmic economics. And that leads to a more unsettling question. Would there even be a final thing to watch? Probably not in the way we instinctively want. There may be no last dramatic sunset for the universe as a whole. No cosmic drumbeat, no universal alarm, no single frame that says, "This is it." Instead, the end would likely arrive unevenly and locally. One system after another running out. One structure after another fading. One age after another closing. The last star in one region would die long before the last black hole elsewhere. The last active habitat would fail without the rest of the universe noticing. In that sense, the end of the universe might be one of the loneliest events imaginable, because it would not feel shared. It would feel like being the final house with a light on in an abandoned city. And then, even black holes, the objects we associate with permanence, would not save us forever. According to Hawking's theory, black holes are not completely eternal. They can slowly lose energy through what we call Hawking radiation, an almost unimaginably slow leakage that causes them to evaporate over immense spans of time. So even the darkest and most durable structures in the cosmos may eventually disappear. The universe does not keep monuments forever. That may be the biggest turn in the whole story. If humanity saw the end of the universe, we would not be watching matter triumph over time. We would be watching time erase even the things that once looked invincible. Stars die, galaxies dim, black holes evaporate, and beyond that, the future becomes even more uncertain. Cosmologists still do not know the full nature of dark energy, and because of that, the exact ending is not settled. The evidence points toward endless accelerated expansion, but the deeper cause remains one of the great open questions in physics. That uncertainty matters, because a different kind of dark energy could produce a different kind of ending. One possibility sometimes discussed is the Big Rip. In that picture, expansion would not merely isolate galaxies. It would eventually become so extreme that larger structures, then smaller ones, and perhaps even the fabric of bound matter itself, could be torn apart. So if humanity saw the end, it might see one of two very different finales. In the quieter ending, the universe becomes a graveyard of separation. In the more violent speculative ending, darkness wins by acceleration. But what makes the quieter version so powerful is that it feels emotionally backwards. We fear explosions, we fear collapse, we fear catastrophe. Yet the most likely cosmic ending may be something much colder than catastrophe. It may be subtraction, less light, less structure, less contact, less possibility. Until one day, the question is no longer, what survives? It is, can anything still happen at all? Now picture this, a civilization at the edge of the final useful era. Perhaps it is no longer human in body, but still human in continuity, in memory, in inheritance, in the stubborn refusal to go dark. It has outlived planets, stars, and galaxies as meaningful civilizations once understood them. And still, in the end, even it cannot negotiate with thermodynamics forever. That is what makes the fate of the universe feel different from every ordinary disaster. There is no enemy to defeat, no asteroid to deflect, no empire to outbuild, no final technology that simply cancels the problem. The universe is not trying to kill you. It is simply becoming less able to host complexity, which sounds abstract until you look at your own life. Every warm room, every sunrise, every green leaf, every heartbeat, every conversation depends on energy flowing from one place to another. Life is not built on matter alone. It is built on difference, on the fact that the universe, here and now, is still young enough, bright enough, and structured enough for islands of order to appear. We are living in one of those islands. And that may be the deepest answer to the question. If humanity saw the end of the universe, the most shocking thing would not be how terrifying it looked. It would be how much it revealed about the rarity of now. Because the real cosmic miracle is not that the universe will someday go dark. It is that, for this brief chapter, it is full of stars, full of chemistry, full of worlds, full of observers able to ask what comes after. In the far future, a surviving descendant of humanity might look into a nearly empty sky and know that the ancient universe was once crowded with galaxies. It might know that there were once nebulae bright enough to paint the dark. It might know that the cosmos once had an era of easy abundance, but it would not be able to see that era anymore. We can. And for us, that changes the emotional center of the story. The end of the universe is not only a tale about doom, it is a perspective machine. It reminds us that we are astonishingly early, that reality is still rich with usable light, that the sky above us is not the default state of existence, but a temporary privilege of cosmic youth. So what would happen if humanity saw the end of the universe? Most likely, humanity would watch the cosmos become emptier before it became dead. Galaxies would slip away. Starbirth would cease. The final long-lived stars would fade. Black holes would outlast almost everything, and then even they would evaporate. And if any mind remained to witness that last age, it would not be seeing a dramatic ending so much as the exhaustion of possibility itself. A final observer might not witness a bang. It might witness the last meaningful contrast in nature flatten into silence. And maybe that is why this question matters so much. Not because we expect to be there, but because imagining that far future teaches us what this moment really is. We are not living near the end. We are living during the lights. The universe may one day become too empty for stories, which makes it extraordinary that for now it is still bright enough for one to be told.